Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, last hour we took a call from Sal, and most of the audience didn't get to hear the entirety of the call because I had to dump part of it. But I felt that Sal made such an incredible point that I went ahead and edited his comments so they are now safe for the radio. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Do you ever see the safety ambassadors around?
They're right around. They're useless. It's like a on a bull. They're doing nothing.
Truer words have never been spoken.
This is the place where people call in to blast away.
It's been a while since we've had to bleep someone, though. I will say that.
It's because we haven't booked Larry Elder lately.
How long has it been since we've had to bleep someone?
I want to say it's been like 2 weeks. So that's a good record for us.
That's a pretty good run.
And, of course, it's now been almost 3 months since this magical moment.
Well, John, as I've told you before, unless Joe Biden can can screw up a mirror.
Larry,
you're on the freaking radio.
I said screw up.
What are you going to do? We do the best we can. 800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our pal from Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. You can get her online at HeidiHarris.com. Follow her on Twitter at Heidiology. She's the host of The Heidi Harris Show. Heidi Harris, welcome.
How are you, my friend? Always great to talk to you.
Likewise. All right, let's get into this hacking that took place over at the MGM, because some bad actor, some hacker, was able to get into their computer system and shut everything down. The slot machines, apparently the room keys didn't work. People were having trouble in the parking structure. Whoever it was that had a beef with MGM Grand shut it down. What the hell happened?
Yeah, we don't know for sure. Here's what we do know. Well, I don't even want to say what we do know for sure because there's so much information going on. And obviously the hackers are not going to tell you everything they did, right? And the company's not going to tell you everything they were able to access. That we know for sure. What we're hearing is they got in initially, and I just had to go through some more IT training, for my radio company. We all have to go through that stuff all the time, to not click on emails, not do this, not do that, right? Apparently what they did, what we're hearing is they went to LinkedIn. They found somebody on LinkedIn who worked for MGM in some high position, don't know who it was. Then they called the help desk because a lot of people are trained not to click on suspicious emails, right? They called the help desk, and apparently these hackers are English-speaking people, so it's not like some Russian calling when I change my password. It's dead giveaway. So they call up, and they sound real friendly, and they're real good at this. So I guess they call it phishing, something like that. It's like phishing, but it's a verbal form of that. So they call the help desk, and they say, I need to change my password, and I'm so-and-so, and they know enough information to schmooze somebody at the help desk to let them change their password, and then they're in. Now, how far they went, we don't know. I went down last weekend just to kind of check it out, and as you mentioned, you referenced the parking. They didn't even have the parking arms down to charge anybody for parking because they couldn't control that system. When you go up and down the lines and you see the red or the green dot letting you know if the space is open, that was off. You'd go down and see a green dot and then there'd be a car in it. So that was all screwed up. I saw probably 150 people standing in front of Hakkasan at MGM trying to get in there at night with some lady, John, with a clipboard at a table. A clipboard.
Back to the future.
Oh, my gosh. So, I don't go down there a lot, so I have no frame of reference for how bad it was. But there were a lot of slot machines turned off. There are reports they were trying to access the slot machines, but they couldn't. Others said they could. I don't know about that, but I know that a lot of them were shut down at MGM and some of the other resorts. And I don't know if they did that to protect themselves. Everybody had to get a hand payout. I don't care if you won $2. I mean, bring back the old change girls, right? Everybody had to have a hand payout for everything. and it was just complete pandemonium. But here's the interesting thing. Now there have been 5 class action lawsuits filed. This is what will get their attention by people whose data was hacked. You know, and I know that one of the most valuable things any of these casinos has is their data list, right? They've got your name, social security number, your level of play. That's really important. That's how they, basically rate you on everything. And all of that information, for sure, we know from Caesars, has been hacked, copied, sold. We don't know yet. But apparently there are people alleging in these lawsuits that these companies knew there was a risk and didn't do anything about it. So how far will this go? I don't know. But who are they going to come after next? That's the question.
Well, if that was the case and that's true, then those people are going to have their identity stolen.
Yep, absolutely. That's the problem. I mean, not only is it valuable financially, my husband worked in database marketing for years at the casino, so he knows how valuable these are. So if you go to another company, the list, if you're a casino host or whatever, that list is worth so much money to you, even if you don't use it for nefarious purposes, even if you're just trying to steal clients, which I guess is unethical, but even if you're trying to steal clients. But like you're saying, if they're going to go ahead and steal people's identity, this is horrifying. And what could happen if somebody was at a casino, wink, wink, and their wife didn't know back in Des Moines, wink, wink, and all of a sudden something is sent out? We don't know about that either. When I was a kid growing up in Vegas, you could not take a picture in a casino with a camera. They would take your film. I saw them do this. Take your film out of your camera because everybody was so freaked out about privacy. And so who knows what will happen with these things, how much of your information they have, have you rented certain wink, wink movies in your room? We don't know how far this goes and who's got access to it.
Well, that's all blackmail material. I remember when Bill Bennett, the radio host and former official, and I believe it was the Reagan administration, when it came out, and I don't even remember how this came out in the newspaper, that he apparently was a heavy-duty gambler and liked to go to Las Vegas and really hit those high-limit rooms hard. He was extremely embarrassed by that, and maybe it damaged his credibility with his audience. I know that when he was giving a speech here in Los Angeles, our own Rob Marinko introduced him at that speech and made a joke about the gambling, and Bennett was not happy about it. It was very icy backstage after the introduction and after Bennett gave his speech. But if you don't want that information out there and you're a heavy-duty gambler, that could be used against you.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing. I mean, is it a big sin to be gambling? It's your money, and some people can decide whether that's sinful behavior or not. To me, it's private. It's not like you're molesting little kids. It shouldn't be out there, or your shopping habits. You owe Nordstrom, $10,000, and, who knows? But that's private information that people shouldn't have access to. And so we have no idea whose hands this information is going to wind up in, and that's what's so scary. And for anybody who comes to Vegas who wants a card, I mean, I've never had one of those casino cards, but as somebody who comes to Vegas a lot, if you have the card, and let's say, for example, I know John Phillips is going to come to Vegas and he's going to drop $10,000 over the weekend. I know that for sure. So I'm going to give him free tickets to this. I'm going to give him this, that, and the other, right? Because I want him to come in and drop all this money. If somebody else is going to come in from some other place, I'm not going to mention a place in California, and drop $500, I'm going to give you a different offer if I give you anything, right? A cheaper room, maybe one night. And that's what all of these databases are built on. That's how you're rated. And so people would have access to all that information too. And it's just it's frightening that people could get a hold of it and have your social security number, possibly, they get access to your credit. We have no idea how far this could go.
Oh, yeah, not just to your credit, but they keep your credit card, multiple credit cards in certain cases, on file. They can just go ahead and charge whatever they want to your card. And if you're a heavy-duty player, you probably have very high limits, and the sky is the limit with what they can charge on your card.
Right. And to your point about blackmailing somebody, let's say, for example, going back to the salesman in Des Moines who comes to Vegas and gets hookers and everything else, if that does happen, then who knows, they could send something to your house, a notification. Now your wife's on alert because and I know if you leave something in a hotel room in Vegas, they don't mail it back to you, because they don't know if you're supposed to be there, wink, wink, at that particular weekend or who. That's part of the privacy thing they've always had in Vegas. So that could be crazy, too, that somebody's notifying you now or, corresponding with you about Vegas. And it could be, we just don't know how far it could go. It's scary, frankly.
If you think about the old Vegas, where you show up and you'd bring cash and you get your poker chips and you'd sit down and play blackjack, or you physically put the coins in the machine, it's very difficult to track those coins. It's very difficult to track those dollars. That's why money laundering is very easy to do with poker chips, because there's no memorialization of the transaction. However, as you correctly described, now that they have these Players Club cards and now that everything goes on your credit card, it's not like the old days. You don't have the anonymity that you used to have. Everything that you do is being tracked electronically.
Yep. And that's scary. So that's why hence these lawsuits. And these people are alleging in the lawsuits that, that they knew that there were breaches. And once again, we don't really know how much was attacked, how much was at risk, because they're not going to tell us. The local newspapers aren't reporting as much as I think they should. If it weren't for the SEC and them forcing them to report these things, we would have heard about this at all, probably. They would have tried to say, oh, well, it's just an inconvenience, something's going on. But Caesars had to report it because of SEC regulations. So that's a big part of it, too. And so I don't know the damage to reputation. How do you quantify that, right? People are going to be very leery about coming to town now and having to verify their ID and getting a casino card or whatnot because they don't know who's got access to it.
Yeah, and it's not just the Bill Bennett types, the people whose reputations are of being of moral character and that sort of thing that can be damaged by this. There are a lot of couples that keep their finances separate. There are a lot of couples that don't necessarily tell their spouse every time they spend money. If you are malicious and you know that you can damage someone by going to their spouse with this information, you can really cause all kinds of trouble within families.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, lawyers will say nowadays the treasure troves of information in divorce cases is things like Facebook. Well, this could be the new frontier for that, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Now, what about when people were playing the machines and everything shut down? And I know that when you're playing those slot machines, where you really get into the big money is when you get into the bonus. And if the machine goes haywire when you're in the bonus and they just give you whatever money you had in the machine, well, it's hard to get in that bonus. If you get in that bonus, you may play that machine all day and only get in one bonus. That's your opportunity to really bring in the money, rake in the money, and win back some of what you lost, or maybe even some on top of that. What did the casinos do to the people who had the machine shut down when they were in the bonus?
It's a good question. I don't know if they shut the machines down when they were when there was nobody sitting at them or in the middle of your play. I don't know about that. I do know this is another thing they're keeping quiet from the public. I do know that everybody had to get hand pays. But you're right. I mean, you're building. You've been playing this machine all day, and we all ultimately know the house wins. But there are times people can win a lot of money on slot machines. And so that's frustrating, too, and that's all part of the customer experience that is not going to be there if you're not able to do that. So the problem is we don't know the ramifications. We don't know if they got a hold of everybody's HR records. If everybody's social security number and name, who works there, who are they going to target next for whatever thing. We don't really know how far this went because they're not telling us. And that's the scary thing. And the local news is reporting, peripheral things, but they're not necessarily delving into it or they're not getting the information. And I understand that MGM wants to play it close to the vest because you don't want to encourage other people to do this, clearly, right? And you've got to be careful. But certainly some things, as a customer, I think I have a right to know, so I can be extra cautious.
I'll tell you, it's days like today, I wish that Las Vegas was still owned by the mob and not the corporations, because the corporations are just lawyering up, and they're doing whatever it is that their blue-chip law firms are telling them to do. In the old days, when the boys were in charge, when they found whoever hacked into their system, that guy or those guys would be at the bottom of Lake Mead before sundown.
Yeah, if you hacked into the system, we hack you and put you in the lake. I do want to mention something else that I noticed, and this is what really hurts me the most, is the employees who work there. You've been to New York, you know what it's like. That main bar in New York, that's always packed. It's all the slot machines there, right, that main one? Absolutely no one there on a Saturday night when we were there. And that bothers me because obviously the employees are not making any money. The executives aren't going to lose any money. The insurance company is going to pay out whatever the ransom is if they decide. Executives will still get their bonus. And the rank and file, the cocktail waitresses, I talked to some of them, business was way off. Bartenders, other people are just going to be just screwed. And that's just so unfair. Where's their money back?
Yeah, no one even thinks about those people because you don't track those dollars. Those dollars are mostly in tips. Everything that the casinos are going to lose, you can track because you know. It's an algorithm. You know what the numbers are. But the poor cocktail waitresses and the bartenders and the hostesses and people like that, they're just out of luck.
Yeah, and that's terrible because I used to be that person, and I understand what it's like, and it just broke my heart to see literally nobody at a bar that should have had, 30 or 40 people on a Saturday night, absolutely no one there. And I don't know how long that went on. I was there Saturday night, should have been full, but who knows if this went on for a week or more. I mean, that's terrible. You have a house payment to make, and this is crazy. And like I said, the executives, way up high, they're not going to lose any money. It's the rank and file, the hourly workers, the people who rely on tips. They're the ones that are getting shafted by this. They're getting hurt the most, frankly, I think.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what this makes me think about. If they can hack into the MGM Grand and that company and other companies in Las Vegas and get all of that information that they have in their computer system, what would happen if they hacked into the FAA? What would happen if they hacked into the water system or the power company or different government agencies that could really throw the world into chaos? They could turn our economy upside down. They could kill people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they could. And the thing that sucks about it is you and I as taxpayers are going to pay any kind of ransom. And they've already hit ransomware, as you know, various utilities and things like that. And the ransomware, it's not coming out of the executive's pockets. It's coming out of, or the, whoever the utility is, it's coming out of the pocket of the taxpayer. That's what happens. And one of the allegations is that MGM was outsourcing their IT, which is obviously another scary thing. So we don't know, what's going to happen next. You're right. I mean, these people aren't going to give up, and they're going to go for the money. It's like the old joke. Was it Willie Horton when they asked him, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. Well, that's why they hack casinos. I had a guest on my show the other day, Jonathan Honig, who's on Fox News all the time, and he had a great characterization for this. He said this is like the modern-day bank heist. And it is the modern-day bank heist.
It really is. It's not Bonnie and Clyde in the car that's all shot up. It's some 300-pound guy in a computer.
Or some 20-year-old kid. I was making jokes on Twitter. I'm like, can somebody, this goes on for 3 days at that time, and I'm like, can somebody swing by the Genius Bar at Apple and grab a 22-year-old, please, and fix this? But here's one other thing I want to add that was so crazy about it. They put out a letter, you probably saw this, that appeared on the dark web. Somebody published it. Is it true? I don't know, I'm assuming. And what they basically outlined in this letter was everything MGM tried to do to get into their system and fix it, these hackers could watch it. They watch you nailing the boards up on this window. They watch you nailing the boards up on that window because they're kind of watching from afar. So everything you're doing to fix it, they're going, oh, I see how that's not going to work. So they're watching, and it's pretty scary. You just have to have the smarter people on the good side and as opposed to the bad side now.
Well, it's why these Vegas casinos, when they hire someone to run their security, whether it is cheating at the card tables or IT or whatever the case may be, frequently they will hire people who used to be the crooks and used to be the cheats themselves because they're the ones that know all the tricks.
Yep, they should. They certainly should, and I know they have in the past, and that's important because some of these people, feel guilty for what they've done in the past, and they try to help. And, the problem is these hackers have nothing else to do except sit in their house with their hoodie on and come up with new ways to do this, and we've just got to be 3 steps ahead of them to make sure that these companies don't have more problems. But once again, the damage to the reputation, that's what's so scary, and who's next? Those are the questions.
Heidi Harris, host of The Heidi Harris Show. You can get her online at HeidiHarris.com and follow her on Twitter at Heidiology. Heidi, we love having you on. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll chat again real soon.
Thank you, my friend. I adore you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if at 3:01 you want to go back and listen to the Heidi Harris interview or anything else that we've done today or in any of the previous shows, You can do that easily.
That's right. Just go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can search for The John Phillips Show on YouTube as well. There are so many different ways to listen. You can fill up your iPhone or your smartphone with as many episodes. You can listen all day long, because I've listened to what's on the radio when we're off. You shouldn't listen to that.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't think they should do that.
And that's all the stations.
Well, it wasn't long ago that a challenge was issued for Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, to debate Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, on Sean Hannity's television program on the Fox News channel. And, Randy, it's my understanding that they now have a date in mind where those two are going to go head-to-head.
That's right. It's fight night in Georgia, apparently, on Thursday, November 30th at 9 o'clock Eastern. There's going to be an hour-and-a-half debate hosted by Sean Hannity between Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis.
I wonder how many Hooters locations around the country are going to be featuring that debate.
They should put it on pay-per-view.
Have some wings, have some beers, like the steamed clams, and enjoy the debate.
But it just didn't feel big enough.
And in preparation for this debate, Gavin Newsom, and maybe some other things like, a presidential run, is doing all of the national shows, including CBS News' 60 Minutes.
That's right. He did a whole segment with them about the launch of Care Court, which is coming to Los Angeles County on October 1st. But, of course, 60 Minutes couldn't help but ask him, is the reason that you want to clean up the state of California and deal with the homeless problem is that you want to run for president?
Let's hear it.
Is part of this that voters are so fed up with what they see on the streets of their cities that as a politician, you've got to clean up those streets?
Yeah, well, that's generally the case, but that's not the inspiration for Care Court.
But is there a political factor in this for you?
As an electoral strategy, I'm turned out. That's not the issue. The politics here is compassion. The politics is purpose.
You may be.
Who is believing that?
Is compassion. The politics is purpose.
The politics is purpose.
When he was running for re-election for the job that he has now, he didn't give us this. But now that he wants to be president, suddenly he's got to do something about the homeless.
You may be termed out here, but does cleaning up the streets of California factor into a potential presidential run?
I'm never going to overpromise that in the short run. I mean, we are struggling in this state.
You're not answering my question.
Well, he's not answering.
No, he's not. And on 60 Minutes, they won't let you get away with that. They got that clock ticking.
You may be termed out here, but does cleaning up the streets of California factor into a potential presidential run?
I'm never going to overpromise that in the short run. I mean, we are struggling in this state.
You're not answering my question.
Homelessness. No, housing and homelessness.
People suggest that cleaning up California streets could be part of a larger political strategy for you.
He's so exasperated.
I think she's getting her first experience with the treatment.
Could be part of a larger political strategy for you.
That was panting.
I'm telling you, every time this guy does an interview, it sounds like an obscene phone call.
People suggest that cleaning up California streets could be part of a larger political strategy for you.
That is a little obscene.
The heavy breathing?
Gavin, what is going on? I know that you're on one of the biggest national platforms there is, 60 Minutes, but you don't need to get that excited about it.
What's the horror movie where they do the prank phone call and it's just heavy breathing?
Is it Scream?
Might be.
Cleaning up California streets could be part of a larger political strategy for you.
You know, I almost have enough noises of Gavin Newsom to recreate When Harry Met Sally. I'm not going to do that, but I almost could.
I think that's table stakes. I think that's just the foundational responsibility of anyone that gets into my position. That's the day job. It's not about some grand ambition. Absolutely not.
Is that a yes or a no?
That was a never-ending response to your question.
Wow, I like the sound effect of the clock after he said that.
Well, it's 60 Minutes. You got to give the people what they want. They're really there for the clock ticking.
Play that ending one more time.
Is that a yes or a no?
That was a never-ending response to your question.
He sounds all deflated, like he was too excited earlier in the question, and now he's in a refractory period.
Is that a yes or a no?
That was a never-ending response to your question.
He sounds like he needs a cigarette.
Now let's hear the tick-tick. Your eggs are ready. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
I'm going to read this one verbatim as it was written. It's from Mark, who writes into johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com with the subject line, yep. Gavin, ... takes a few minutes for the phlegm to gargle up. What a piece of monkey he is.
Well, you read it verbatim of sorts.
I wasn't going to read that one word.
No.
The one after monkey.
I wouldn't care, but the company might.
This is the place where people come to blast away, whether it's email or on the phone, or us during the commercial breaks.
Primarily the email.
But it just didn't feel big enough.
Tomorrow is Woo Wednesday.
Ric Flair, let's get a preview.
It's Woo Wednesday. Yeah, baby. Woo, 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 woo. Woo, 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 woo.
Even though it's Tuesday, someone emailed us asking for Woo Wednesday today. So I emailed an MP3 of Mr. Ric Flair himself.
Woo!
And it's not just Woo Wednesday, but there's going to be a big Republican debate for the presidency at night, live from the Reagan Ranch out in Simi Valley. We're going to have a preview for that right here on AM 790 KABC. Also, programming note, I'm going to be appearing on CNN after the debate. It's not going to be immediately after. They're pushing me back way into the night. I think right now it's scheduled at 1 o'clock, but they change it 15 times before I actually go on, so maybe it'll be earlier than that. Maybe it'll be much earlier than that. Maybe it'll be later than that. Maybe they'll just cancel. Who knows? Here's what I'm planning on doing. After we sign off, I'm going to eat a little dinner. I'm going to watch the debate. I'm going to go to bed, and then I'm going to set my alarm for midnight, wake up, get dressed, do the hit, and then go back to bed. I'm going to sleep in shifts, essentially, Randy, almost as if I had a kid in goth clothes.
This is quite the dedication for a CNN hit.
That's true.
Well, people are going to be focused on this debate because it's the first debate without Asa Hutchinson, so it's going to be completely different from the last one.
Is it Asa or Asa?
I think it's Asa.
Well, Coulter called him Asa.
That might have been on purpose.
Okay. All right, that's going to do it for us today, but we'll be back tomorrow at noon for another live and local edition of The John Phillips Show right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.